Welcome to Performance Anxiety. This episode features Alexa Hunter. She sang for Disturbed Furniture in the late 70s and early 80s. After playing some of the most famous clubs in New York, the band recorded one single and then disbanded. Alexa left for California to pursue other endeavors, but when an exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art used some of her video footage of the band playing in these clubs, it sparked a renewed interest in Disturbed Furniture. They've recorded a new EP, and you can check it out and buy it at their website, disturbedfurniture.com. Check them out on Facebook or on Instagram at Disturbed Furniture. You can check us out on Twitter and Instagram at PerformanceANX. We're also on Facebook at Performance Anxiety. Subscribe, rate, and review, please. And also, check out our merchandise at performanceanx.threadless.com. Here's Alexa Hunter of Disturbed Furniture.
Don't change that dial. This is Alexa Hunter of Disturbed Furniture for Performance Anxiety. It's warm.
Well, now, I've got a couple friends out there, and they say it almost never rains out there. How do you guys cool off?
It's a desert. And yesterday, it required actually going in the ocean to cool off.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm very lucky that, I have a car and I can drive it and in half an hour be in the water.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And it cools off at night.
Oh, well, that's good.
It cools off at night, which is not always the case on the East Coast where I grew up.
Yeah, and that's and let me get into that in one second because I have a couple questions for you about that. Heard some stuff from my friends out there, but what was my point? Oh yeah, I was going to ask you. Speaking of LA at night, I have some friends out there, and they say that the sidewalks roll up pretty early. It's not as like a late night town as New York is.
No, of course not. Of course not. First of all, it's not that kind of a city. It's not all condensed like New York. And New York just has always been a night spot.
Right.
A hot spot, night spot. And Los Angeles and California, it's the daytime. It's the light of the day.
Sunny California.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. When they told me that, I was like, that can't be. I can't imagine there isn't stuff going on at night. It's just
there probably is, but it's probably very underground. Like there is a club where we're actually going to play. It's not an advertised venue at all. It's like a private club.
Okay.
And it's mostly an after-hours club. People still go out. And I think probably after hours in LA begins at 11.
Oh, okay. So it's like a speakeasy. You got to knock on the door and give a password.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Those are they are littered throughout the city. So there's a small contingent of late night people that still live here.
Okay. Well, apparently those are not my friends out in LA. So
mostly they're not my friends either.
Yeah. So
once in a while.
But you didn't grow up out there. You grew up on the East Coast, right?
Very much an East Coast kid, yeah.
Is it New York?
I was born and raised in New York City. And for 7 or 8 years, we lived outside of Boston and in Minnesota.
Okay.
It was about my dad's work. And then luckily he got a job back in New York City. So because I'm a city kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you naturally drawn to music? Did you learn an instrument when you were young, or?
Yeah. I started piano lessons when I was little, and I think I got my first acoustic guitar when I was about 7. So by the time I was 7 or 8, I was already, thinking, not even consciously thinking, but it was getting into the blood. And my parents were not musical at all. They just had good taste in records.
That sounds like my parents. Not musical at all. My dad particularly was terrible. But
no.
So at what
not
point?
Musical at all. But I do want to name drop one thing. My mother was a muse to a very famous composer named Leonard Bernstein. You might have heard of him.
Really?
And when she first moved to New York from Chicago, she was going to art school, and one of her roommates was Leonard Bernstein. And
Wow.
one of his first pieces of published music is a song cycle called I Hate Music. And it's dedicated to my mother.
I hate music, but I like to sing. La-dee-da-da-dee, la-dee-da-dee.
Wow, that's awesome.
She wasn't musical, but she was a muse.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I didn't find any of that in my research, I'll tell you that.
No, it's you have to look pretty hard.
Yeah.
For that one.
Go to the source. So when did you start performing out in public?
Well, I did theater in high school. So I got interested in this idea of being on stage when I was 14 or 15. And was also playing music at home. The first time I started playing publicly was when I was about 18. Coffee shops. I had a very limited repertoire.
Okay.
So that didn't go very far. Really not a great guitarist. I'm functional. I can write on the guitar, but I can't really do whole sets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you started gravitating towards singing then, and being a front person.
Yes. Okay. So the singing was already sort of gathering steam when I was in high school. One of my teachers had a mother who was an opera teacher. She taught voice, but mostly opera. And so that was the first time I started studying the voice, was when I was about 17. And then when I was living in London as a student, I was living with some musicians, but they were doing more jazz. They were more in the jazz genre. And I always had a place in my heart, and still have a place in my heart, for the American Songbook, the jazz standards. So I was doing some of that kind of singing, but not publicly. And then it was 1977, and the Sex Pistols came out. And I went to my first punk rock concert.
Now, were you in London at this time?
I was in London for a study abroad, and was very impacted by I didn't get out to clubs very much, but the few times I did, I was just knocked out by the music.
Yeah.
I think the first concert I saw there, the first punk rock, was The Damned.
Oh, wow. Now that's a show to see for your first one. If you want to get indoctrinated into punk, that's the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it was such a breath of fresh air. I couldn't stand so much of the music that was being played on the radio.
Yeah, getting overproduced and
overproduced and overstructured, and
maybe. Yeah, exactly.
That too. Yeah.
So all right. So the Damned brought you into punk, and when did you start playing with bands?
Okay, so then I went back to college after I was in London, but I knew that I didn't really want to be in college, so I transferred to college in New York City, and that was just the gateway drug to being back in New York and getting it started. Moved down to the East Village, dropped out of college, and started singing backup in bands. You would literally open the back of the Village Voice and answer ads.
There you go.
So the first band that actually worked and performed in clubs and did a little bit of touring was called Mandy Doll. You didn't find that in your research?
No, I did not.
Oh, Mandy Doll. So she was this woman who wrote songs. They had clever lyrics. She could not sing. So it was sort of in between spoken word and white girl rap.
Interesting.
This was like 1979, maybe. But I started getting access to what it would take to rehearse on a regular basis and get good musicians and book clubs. So I was learning on that job, but it was short-lived. It was not my type of music. It was too too cute, too clever, too pop. And I wanted my own music to be done, not somebody else's.
So is that when you started putting together what would become Disturbed Furniture?
Yeah. And, this whole time when I was singing backup with Mandy Doll and with another band that didn't go anywhere, The Insertions.
Always love the names. Those are great.
I know. Nothing wrong with the name. There were other problems. Yeah. So I was already hanging out at the Mud Club and at Club 57 and kind of getting in gear for having my own band. I knew that's what I wanted to do. It was just a matter of finding the right people.
And so the first okay, so first of all, the name Disturbed Furniture, where did that come from?
I remember pretty clearly we were rehearsing, and so the band was already formed. We already had a bass player and a drummer and 2 guitarists, and we were rehearsing in somebody's really dank basement in the East Village. And there was this awful couch, one of those modular things that could move around. And the word disturbed popped up and furniture, and they met in the middle. And
there you go.
And they're still together after all these years.
It was inspiration from a dank basement. Now, the first show, it was you.
Club 57.
Club 57. It was you, a bass player that you had met at Mud Club.
Yep, Tony Zebe.
Tony Zebe, and a pickup guitarist. That sounds really improvisational.
It was pretty rough. I don't think there was a lot of rehearsing. I think we had 3 songs.
Okay.
And oddly enough, one of those songs is back in the repertoire.
Really?
And it's actually on the EP. It was kind of a sentimental move, but it's on the new EP. So the EP is new and old. So the first performance was at a night of Dada music.
Okay.
At Club 57. At the club, every night was a different theme night. So, if you wanted to do something, it wasn't that hard to find a night where you could fit in your plan for a piece of performance art or an art exhibit. And most things only went up once.
Okay.
People would do very elaborate performance work, and it was done once.
Oh,
and
wow.
Some of it, only a small fraction of it actually got photographed or filmed.
You were one of the few that were filmed, and it's become an exhibit. So, but yes. I want to get into that in a second. But I kind of want to learn more about the early days of the band. And I'm going to take a guess that the song that made it back to the repertoire and the EP is "Hit or a Miss."
Yes, it is.
Man,
that was my first song with the band. Aww. And we actually have a video coming out, which we used. We were planning on making. I was trying to make a rock video. This was 1980 or 81, but I didn't have money, so it never got edited. But we shot this great footage. My friend Jeff O'Connor, who I had met in London, who has grown up to become a great filmmaker, documentary and features. And he shot us at 6 a.m. after a night at the Mud Club.
Oh, wow.
We being Tony, the bass player, Stephanie, who became our rhythm guitarist, and about 7 other people that had been up all night. And I convinced them to come dance around in Chinatown for no money. Maybe I bought them coffee.
Hey, I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
For a rock video.
Exactly.
You have to understand, this was the Stone Age. Rock video was a very new idea.
Yeah.
You could make these little films with a soundtrack, no dialogue. It was very new. I don't know if MTV even existed when we shot this. I would have to really figure out the dates.
If it's about the same time as your first EP, your first single, then it would, probably before, it would predate MTV for sure.
And we were slightly horrified at this idea of having to make videos because it seemed like a cheap shot.
Oh, really?
Like, oh, really? It's that important what you look like?
Ah, okay. That makes sense then. Yeah, especially with the punk aesthetic.
But then, then people got into it and enjoyed it. And it certainly took off in a lot of ways when we got into the new wave and people started dressing up and, fashion was always embedded in the music, certainly, the Sex Pistols were a great example of that, of Malcolm McLaren shaping.
Put the packaging together,
Sure. Packaging.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Vivian Westwood.
Yeah. And so you, around that time that you started playing and opening for some of the other bands in the area, like Blondie and the Go-Go's.
Oh, we never opened for Blondie.
Blondie? Then that must be...
No, not us, no.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at it was the Go-Go's, the Stranglers, the
Go-Go's,
Psychedelic Furs. That's what I was thinking.
Psychedelic Furs.
So how does that happen? Are they touring and are you like the house band that's opening up for them, or are you just contacting them?
They didn't have house bands. They had these booking agents at that time, like at Hurrah's, Ruth Polsky, who sadly, I don't want to get into that. It would be a very sad diversion to tell the story of what happened to Ruth Polsky, but maybe I will. Okay. She was amazing ear, and she had her ear on the pulse of Britain and was bringing over these unknown bands that maybe had a single out, maybe they had one little album.
Yeah.
And the pairing would be with an unsigned or a not that well known local band to open for them. That was just the balance. So we got lucky. I think we had already played Hurrah on another occasion, and she put us on the bill with the Psychedelic Furs. I guess we had a little bit of psychedelic ambiance to our music, and it was a good combination, and it was a great night. We had a star-studded audience. David Bowie was there, not to see us, of course, but,
Still.
He was checking out Richard Butler and one of the Sex Pistols.
Okay. Wow.
So we had good audience at some of these clubs as the opening band.
Is that what led to going into the studio to record your first single?
I would say, yeah. We were, it just seemed excuse me, I've been drinking.
That's fine.
Soda, trying to stay hydrated. Having a record was, it was like a calling card. And the offers that we were getting were not good from a couple of labels were reaching out to us, but we thought, it was the do-it-yourself times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of bands were putting out their own singles. It wasn't like we were this odd entity that figured out how to do your own 45. It was sort of a regular thing. If you had a band and you were on some sort of upward trajectory, the logical thing was to get some vinyl, to get to the next. And a 45 wasn't that much of a commitment in the recording studio,
Okay. And so was that something you guys had to pull together your own funding to do? Wow.
Yes, we did.
So you guys were probably playing several times a night. And some awesome people.
No. I don't think we played several times. We didn't play that much. I don't.
The reason I asked is because in talking to some other the punk band people from the punk bands of that era, they're saying places like CBGB's they would play 2-3 sets a night, and It was crazy.
I remember that we did 2 or 3 sets a night. I don't know who you were talking to, but I don't remember doing multiple sets. But it's very possible that we did because my memory is.
How often would you play in a week? How many nights per week would you be at?
Just once a week.
Okay.
You know, we weren't doing more than once a week.
Why just one single? Was it just a money issue, or?
It was probably a money issue, and probably we did other recordings that didn't get pressed, and we're actually going to put them on our website because some of them are good. It was a matter of it was a matter of a couple things. The band changed, so there was one lineup in the beginning that included this fabulous guitarist Phil Schoenfeld, great songwriter. He wrote Information. He now lives in Prague, and he has about 15 CDs.
Oh, wow.
He's quite successful. And Philip left the band to start his own band. He was with Disturbed Furniture for about a year, I think. And then he started his own band called Khmer Rouge with Barry Myers, who was the DJ that came over with The Clash. He was the bass player.
Oh, wow.
And so when Philip left, there's a shift of the music. You know, we don't really want to do his songs anymore. He's got his own band. Although I think we continued to do Information, which was the single.
Right.
So the music begins to shift when the players begin to shift. And then the next incarnation, the next lead guitarist was a terrible drug addict. So that brought in instability. He was fabulously talented. Sadly, he just couldn't handle sobriety.
Yeah.
And in fact, he just died last year.
Oh, goodness. I'm so sorry.
And I'm sad that I didn't try and find him before he passed away. Very, very talented. But that was an instability kind of in the middle of those years. And then when we got stable again, it was again, the shifting going on with are we going more funk? Are we getting more world music in there? And then deciding on material. It all is a bit of a blur now, but I think the other recordings that we did weren't quite ready for pressing. And then the band broke up. It was all very fleeting.
So what caused the breakup of the band?
Well, I think it's a matter of me feeling overwhelmed with the dynamics of the various players, and feeling like, well, maybe I need to just be on my own. Maybe this is too hard, and it's going to be better for me as a singer to just do cabaret stuff. As I said earlier, I love jazz, and I was thinking, well, maybe I'll go more in that direction. And I also always had a theatrical bent, so I started when I did end the band around 1983. Lots of other stuff was happening. There was a big club cabaret scene, and I got involved with this artist named Gaylord, and we put on these grand, festive performance pieces that were musicals in nightclubs. That was our world, and it was very different than the rock and roll I'd been doing, but it was equally fulfilling, exciting.
And then you decided to move to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
That happened in 87. I was feeling like the East Village was just too small, and I wanted a more expansive taste of the world. I was acting then, so I thought it would be good for the acting, and I thought the music would do well there. And I was actually very wrong. I was probably going to be better off staying in New York. I probably would have had more action if I had stayed in New York, but I found other things that I like.
You teach as well, right?
I'm kind of on a hiatus. I'm only teaching part-time now, but I did become a teacher. I went back to school and finally finished college and then got a master's degree and started writing and teaching, and the music sort of faded out because I think when I was in my late 30s, I thought, okay, time to
grow up.
Time to grow up. I also had a kid, and that was part of the influence was, getting a real job.
Yeah, they'll make you grow up pretty quick.
Yes, I think you have a couple.
I got 3.
3? Wow.
14, 15, and 16.
Irish triplets?
Yeah. I think we almost coined that phrase when my third one was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
No time to rest.
No. It's amazing because they all go through everything at the same time. It's 2 girls and a boy. The boy's right in the middle. And so they all go through just about everything at the same time. And it's, on one hand, it's horrible because they're all teenagers at the same time and they're all testing us at the same time. But on the other hand, it's amazing because they're very close and they kind of support each other through whatever they're going through. And plus whatever they're going through, we get it all over with at once. We have a rough couple of years and then it's done.
Right. Well, mazel tov.
Oh, thank you.
God, I only have one, and that was a lot for me. I think sometimes, you've heard this before. When you have 2, they can play with each other, they can entertain each other. When you have 1, it's almost more work because they don't have that sibling to bounce off of.
I totally believe that. I absolutely believe that. Now, so what were you teaching when you started that career?
Well, I started out as a music teacher at a Lutheran church in Hawthorne, where the Beach Boys are from.
Oh, cool. And
that was very odd. Very, very odd teaching religious music,
Yeah.
As a pagan, it was a weird fit, but it was a job.
Yeah.
It was a job. And then I was going to graduate school, so, it worked. And then I became an English teacher. I got my master's in English, and I think my favorite demographic was high school. I liked the high school brain.
Really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I had some fun in those years. I taught only at public schools.
Okay.
And I taught some pretty hardcore kids, kids who had been in jail and kids who had already had kids,
Oh my gosh.
Oh, For 3 years, I taught continuation, which is the school you go to when you flunk out of the regular high school.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. That's
so. But you know what? It was great for me because I didn't want to be a traditional English teacher, and I got a lot of freedom.
I'm
to teach in more alternative ways.
That sounds amazing. And now you mentioned that you also write. What have you written? And is it
I think I've always written this sort of fragmented poetry, some of which becomes songs. But I started really seriously writing short stories and essays when I was in graduate school. And I continued that for about 10 or 12 years and got a few things published. But I go through phases. I'm now actually, when I'm not doing the music, I became a jewelry maker and a jewelry designer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I work a lot with metal and lapidary. I actually cut the raw stuff and shape it and polish it. So the writing is sort of off to the side now. The songwriting is happening, but I'm not writing essays or stories.
So you just throughout your entire life, you've just been keeping those creative juices flowing and just in so many different areas.
Well, I'm not saying I'm good at any of them, but it's just the way my mind works. And it's not even that I get bored. It's more like I get frustrated and I find some other material to play with and work out whatever it is I'm trying to work out.
Okay. And so your recent project is bringing Disturbed Furniture back together. And
yes.
Was that a result of the film that was an exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
What happened was around 2016, I started hearing about this show that was going to be at the Museum of Modern Art with some of my old buddies from New York who were part of this club where we first played, Club 57, that was, for want of a better term, like my living room.
Right. The living room for Disturbed Furniture.
Well, it was just my living room. It's where, you can't go to sleep. You walk down 5 blocks and you're at a living room filled with cute boys, and there's a little alcohol, and there's a movie screening or some weird performance. Yeah, it was a good living room. So I heard about this show that was bubbling up at the Museum of Modern Art, and they being the curators, they were really looking very carefully at who besides the centrifugal stars of that scene, who was in the next level. So you have at the center, you have Keith Haring, and you have Jean-Michel Basquiat, and you have Kenny Scharf, and you have Anne Magnuson. And then you have the next levels. And I happen to have videos of the band from exactly that era.
Wow.
Edited by people that were part of that club. Barry Shills, another great filmmaker friend, who shot these 4 videos, and edited by Steve Brown, who did Nirvana's first couple of videos.
Okay.
He passed away from AIDS quite a few decades ago, but so there was so much talent, just like it was kind of remarkable. So this show started coming together. They decided they were interested, they being the curators of the show, Ron Magliozzi and Sophie Cavalucos, they wanted to acquire those videos that I didn't even have a copy of.
Oh, wow.
They were also very interested in some Super 8 films that I shot. I had a moment of wanting to be a filmmaker, and I had a camera from, I'm not sure, I think I had borrowed it from Columbia where I was dropping out, but I still had their camera on loan. And I shot some short films inside Club 57. And apparently not very many people did that.
Oh, wow.
There is not a lot of footage inside the club that has lasted or could be found. So suddenly I had these valuable assets. So those were acquired. They also acquired the footage that I shot that night in Chinatown for our first, the Hit or a Miss video.
Right.
So they acquired 3 things that I was involved in shooting and directing, and they're pretty raw. They were never really edited at all, or they actually the 4 song videos were edited by Steve Brown, but the other stuff kind of sat in a drawer for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of remarkable that all this stuff got to come out into the light.
That's an amazing story. And so once they contacted you about this footage, is that when you decided to get back in touch with Tony and the rest of the band?
Well, Tony lives in England, and so we at first were working with our former producer and engineer of the single, Steve Remote, who is still very much in the music business. So he came on board at the very beginning of the reunion. Jorge Arevalo still lives in New York, and Mick Oakleaf still lives in New York. So we I told them about the show at MoMA and how our music was going to be screened, and they got excited. And it wasn't like I knew there was going to be more than just one reunion gig. I had no idea what the response would be, how I would sound singing this music again after a long hiatus.
Right.
But the response was really good, so we kept doing gigs over the course of the year that the show was up. And then I said, let's go in the studio. I always wanted to make more vinyl with these people. And anyway, I feel like I'm rambling.
No, not at all. That's what this show is definitely about, hearing these stories. I want to know about how this stuff comes to be. So this is awesome for me.
Good. Thank you.
So how was the experience in the studio different in doing the new EP compared to doing your first single?
Very different. Very different. First of all, there are options now. There's digital.
Right.
We started out as a complete analog project in the spirit of the old days, found a studio in Brooklyn, and it was, how was it different? I guess because we all have matured, our ears have matured, we know, we have a better idea of what we're doing. I don't know how to answer that. How is it different? The truth is, I don't remember that much about the 80 recording.
Okay. Well, that's fair.
I think my drummer, Mick, probably has clear memories. Maybe he smelled the pot. I don't know. But it just felt, it felt long overdue. It's something that I've probably filed back in my brain somewhere, that I really wanted to do a record again. And here I am doing another record again. So it's very sweet. It's very sweet, the whole experience.
Well, the music is very tight. It doesn't sound like you guys, took a 30-something year hiatus.
Well, Mick and Jorge and Shin Sakano, who plays bass on the record, they play all the time. They are not just, they didn't take as long a break as I did from their instrument. They play all the time, and they're very warmed up.
So Hit or Miss is a track that was demoed and back in the late 70s, early 80s. What about the rest of the songs? Are those new compositions, old compositions, or mix?
Two of them are completely new. Ill in Paris is completely new, and Angel of Losses are completely new songs. I started writing Angel of Losses about 3 years ago. I was doing a performance piece, and I think it was rabbi talking to a congregation, and the lights go out, and it's about, this wonderful allegory. So that's a new song.
Angel of losses, you tell me I'm crossing a great divide. Angel of losses, you'll carry me over, so I won't hide.
Those two are completely new. And then in the front was a song from our old repertoire, but it got a whole new funky middle section.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And those lyrics, there was always a kind of political activism undercurrent in the band. From the beginning, when Philip, who was the first lead guitarist, was in the band, he was British. He is British. He's still very much alive. He was quite politically minded. And, music has always been a form of activism. Certainly when I was growing up, and, Pete Seeger and Guthrie and Joan Baez and all those great singers and songwriters, that was there in the beginning, and it's coming back with us in this reinvention of the band.
Okay.
This idea that, it's not a coincidence that I feel inspired to write again in this medium, because I'm just flabbergasted by where we are right now as a country,
right,
or as a world. I mean, Britain is getting their own dose of new, insane, mad leaders.
So it's a 5-song EP. Is there a long play in the future for you guys?
I hope there is. I'm back on the horse or the bicycle or whatever this thing, whatever metaphor you want. And I feel good about the music, and I feel it will depend a lot on if people actually respond to this record, buy it.
Right.
I hope so. I would love to keep going and get back and do more recording with these guys. They were so much fun. They are so much fun to work with. And they're coming to LA. Yay!
Oh, awesome. You guys going to be doing some shows out there then?
We are doing shows out here. We're doing this great club called The Mint, which has been here for a million years.
I've heard
everybody,
of that.
lots of cool people play there. Billy Bob Thornton is playing there just a week before us.
Cool.
So you get all kinds of music, blues, rock, probably metal, probably electronica. But yeah, so we're that's the main show is the 21st of August, and that is supposedly the release date of the vinyl, but we how dates shift.
Oh yeah. Yes.
But the CD will be ready. We decided to print some CDs too because
perfect.
Yeah.
I'm a very tactile person. I need to have something physical in my hands, or I don't feel like I actually have it. So.
Me too.
And
exactly.
Either CD or vinyl. I'm not picky. I just need a physical copy.
How many records do you have?
Records. Probably. I don't have a huge vinyl collection. I've got probably 100 or 150, but I've got about 3,500 CDs.
Wow.
So yeah, when I was in my prime music collecting years, I lived in New Jersey, and
where
in a little area named called Branchburg, right in the middle of the state between. It was right on the edge of Somerset and Hunterdon counties. So I was about an hour out of New York City and an hour out of Philly. So once I got
good location.
Yeah, once we got wheels, me and my buddies were always in one of the two going to see bands. So we would go to this record store in Princeton, and they would get all of these promos from the records the radio stations in the area. And so you would go in there, and for like $20, you could come out with like 10 or 12 CDs because they're all promos from the radio stations. And so
I think I know the store because my dad lived in Princeton.
Oh, yeah, Princeton Record Exchange.
Yes. I have many CDs from Princeton Records.
Oh, I love that place. That
is a very, very cool store.
Oh, it's fantastic. It still is, from what I understand. My buddy still lives in that area and goes every once in a while. So
yeah,
not nearly as big as it was when I was going there, but it's still pretty big.
Still pretty cool.
Yeah, and the same guys are still working there.
Wow. Don't ever quit.
Never. You can't give up on that stuff.
Never give up.
So where can people find the album when it comes out?
Well, that's a good question.
Hope there's an answer.
And I want to say go to the website, because I think that's where we will be putting information like what record stores are going to carry it.
Okay.
We haven't worked out the distribution yet. And the website is super easy. It's just disturbedfurniture.com. Boom.
That's nice and easy.
Nice and easy.
Are you guys on social media?
We are on Instagram, same thing, Disturbed Furniture.
Perfect.
And we even have a Facebook page, though I'm not in love with Facebook these days.
No, and neither am I. I just don't like what the way they keep monkeying with it, and it's just
Yeah.
There's a lot of improvements that could be made on that platform.
Yes, indeed, indeed. But this is one thing that I am trying to adjust to, is this social media world, because it hasn't been part of my life that much. I mean, my kid, of course,
right?
But as a form of promotion, this is a new thing, and it's a bit mind-boggling.
It is, and it's just I haven't figured it out yet. I know I post on my show page, post on my personal page, and between the two of them, I hope I get enough people to listen to my shows and support you guys and help you guys out in any way I can. By the way, I do want to tell you that I love Angel of Losses. That's my favorite song off the EP.
Oh, that makes me so happy, because honestly, we worked our tuchuses off with that song. It went through so many incarnations. I mean,
really?
It just took a really long time to get it to a place where both Jorge and I were happy with it. So that makes me really happy.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Good.
Thank you.
It's a very beautiful, delicate song, and I love it.
Thank you. I think one of the great challenges was, and I sort of got the answer, but the songs aren't all clearly one genre.
No, not at all.
And I was afraid of that being sort of working against us. Like, oh, well, they should all be gothic, or they should all be pop. And then at a certain point, I guess somebody said, no. Oh, I know. It was Howard Wolfing, who is helping us out with publicity. Yeah, he's very cool. And he said, well, what about Sgt. Pepper's? And that was like, snap.
Yep.
Oh, okay. You want to use the Beatles as a benchmark of this kind of... That's fine. I'll accept that.
Well, it does. The styles in the EP vary a lot, and that's one of the great things about it, because it keeps it interesting. It's 5 songs, and you don't feel like you're listening to just 5 punk songs or 5 rock songs or 5 folk songs. It definitely keeps you interested and engaged in it.
Excellent. That's good, because it took 35 years to write these songs.
Well,
I hope it can't take another 35 years. I don't think I can wait that long for the next.
I wouldn't want to wait that long for more music. I'm really enjoying the EP and discovering the first single too. That was really cool. Thank
you. We're happy that it gets some attention on old YouTube.
Yeah. And is there any way to see the video footage that became the MOMA exhibit?
Well, thanks for asking, because we actually are going to put it out there. I'm not sure if it's going to be, probably YouTube.
Okay.
But I'm not positive. Again, go to the website. Probably before the record even comes out, we're going to start streaming some of that old footage. In fact, literally a week ago, I saw a video that my drummer found from 1981 at the Peppermint Lounge.
Oh, wow.
A full show, and it's really clear. So we're going to show some of that video, some of that show from 1981, and we're going to show some of the other stuff that was shot in those years that is finally edited.
Oh, that's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So go to the website for all the information. That's the easiest.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I've taken up almost an hour of your time. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening and asking questions and being interested in an old fart like me.
Well, you're making fantastic music, so it's easy to get interested in it. So.
Thank you again. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Ill in Paris, that's what it's all about. picture's title hanging to the right of the bed. Saucer-haunted eyes looking out, telling tales of a life not got so many